travelers. I'm Josh.
And I'm Kai.
And we're the Genshin
Genshin
guys. Welcome all. This podcast is for fans of Genshin Impact, the mobile game made by HoYoverse, also known as miHoYo. Here we talk about our opinions, experiences, and dreams about Genshin Impact. If you like our show, don't forget to subscribe on Apple Music, Spotify, or wherever you're listening to the podcast. So before we get started, Kahi, how are you doing today?
Doing pretty good. Getting a little muggy here, but the weather's not that bad. Also, I've been catching up slowly on my anime queue, so I still have a lot of episodes, a lot of shows to get caught up on, but I have a day off today, so I have a lot to do. A lot of quests in Genshin, a lot of prep. But yeah, pretty much good so far. How about you, Josh? How's your cough? You getting better?
It's still there, but it is definitely getting better for sure. Usually less in smaller intervals now. I mean, larger intervals now? Yeah, larger intervals now before I cough, typically. But, it's different when I'm, doing a podcast or something, or streaming, or just, using my voice constantly, so, it's okay. I'll be okay, but I appreciate you asking. Otherwise, I am doing alright. Just, voice acting and trying a bunch of stuff and learning and self-development and all that stuff. Really, really fun time here in Vancouver, Canada. So here we go. So I'll introduce our topics for today. First is our weeks in Genshin, Genshin news, Nahida's second story quest, Sapientia Oromastis, Act 2. Yeah, and the Akademiya. We're going to be talking about the Akademiya today in an Akademiya lore learn-along. And we're going to be doing the community discussion question and the last wish segment. Okay, so before we get started on these topics, just a quick shout out to Discord. If you haven't already joined our Discord, the link is in the description. Come and join us. Come talk about Genshin with us. Come talk about other games with us. Honkai's coming out soon. So many things. And yeah, we have a really, really fun community. We're very welcoming. If you want to join part of the wholesomeness of our community, come and join us on Discord. We do things like weekly camera contests. With the camera in Genshin, we do a lot of food and pet sharing pictures. So if if you're into that too, of course, come join us and hang out. We have a very respectable community, and thank you to everyone that is already a part of that. Okay, so let's go into our first topic. As always, our weeks in Genshin. Okay, Kahi, how was your week in Genshin Impact?
So I really tried to get through the main zone quest. But the thing about the new zone is because there's so many obvious chests right around, and they're actually good. They're good, rewards in the chest. So I'm like, okay, this might be worth it. So I'm just gonna try and unlock this puzzle real quick, and then it apparently just takes a really long time because you have to use Sarush a lot. Yep. And then you unlock this one quest, and I'm like, oh, I spent way too much time. I'm just trying to go to the next part of the quest. But did you finally finish it?
I did.
Oh, okay. So we'll probably do this particular quest because it's long, and of course there's more story. We'll probably do that next episode.
Wait, Kai, did we ever finish the Golden Slumber discussion?
No, we didn't. We didn't finish Jet's discussion quest either.
Maybe we should do that one.
Okay, we probably should.
We should probably do R&R too.
Okay, here's the thing. I have a feeling. I have this strange feeling that we're not done with Jet's quest just yet, just because of how many times it kept resurfacing.
We'll see, Kai.
There's different parts to it.
The last part of the desert opened up, so I don't see Jet's quest continuing in here.
I guess not, but it'll be.
You can dream.
Fun.
It's okay, you can dream. We talk about our dreams for Genshin Impact here, right? That's what we do.
Yeah.
Yeah.
We'll probably do once all the things in Sumeru are done.
Yeah.
We'll do a recap of what was the best part of Sumeru. I'd probably want to do that.
Jet should just get a vision and be playable,
Yeah, easy
peasy.
Yep, I'm still saving. I'm still trying to go throughout the whole zone, unlock all the teleporters. This new part of the desert isn't very big, but it is very stuffed full of stuff. a lot of Dendroculus that is a constant reminder that I probably should go back and try to unlock at least a couple more to get to one more statue level. I think all of the other statues I got to like max level except Sumeru, just
Mm.
because there's a lot
Oh, we also just unlocked the
and they're
last
all over.
area, so.
Yeah, I don't because there's so many that are in very specific locations. I don't know if I'll have enough time to go back and try to get everything before a next big patch and everything, because there's more story, there's more quests, there's more everything else. So, man, Sumeru was just chock full of stuff. It's a
Yeah,
very dense patch
it's
every time.
gigantic. It's like
It is
when you think
huge.
that an area couldn't get much bigger than Leeway, and you see Sumeru, and you're like, oh, it's actually two giant areas in one area. It's crazy.
And
One,
Inazuma and then Chasm
yeah.
was like actually cool, really deep. But then, hey, Sumeru kind
Mm-hmm.
of outshines them all. It's pretty ridiculous to think of how all the new zones are going to be compared to Sumeru now. Because is it going to be bigger, or
Yeah,
is it going to be
I'm
like
so
more
curious.
refined?
Yeah, I mean, assumably Snezhnaya is huge. If we like just look, I don't know. If we look at the map, there's still a lot of map left. So if there
Mm-hmm.
unless there's any other like non-faction nation that's just like an area that's not within any nation, then it's gonna be like those nations are gonna be huge, like Fontaine, Natlan, and Snezhnaya. There's only 3 left, but there's so much map left. Also, there's the rest of Mondstadt, which supposedly we haven't really seen yet. So, um, yeah, so hype for that.
Yep. Other than that, yep. Just doing some pre-patch farming. I'm just you know gathering all the new materials that I can find, because I'm still not too sure what Baiju is going to require. I told you I'm going to go after Baiju, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, after Baiju, it's just
I
waiting
mean,
to a Fontaine.
assumably he'll use like the new boss because he's a 5-star. So
Mm-hmm.
he'll use the Inquisitor.
Hey, but doesn't he drop electro things?
I don't know. Just it's like one of those like
Mhm.
like how Yelan and Kuki use the chasms like robot like worm. Like it doesn't really matter
Mm.
like what
I
element it is.
guess.
So
Mm.
yeah, they have those sometimes.
It's a mechanical thing though, because this one has like an element tied to it, which is weird because it's electro. They didn't announce any electro character unless it's a hint.
Well, we'll see.
I would love for another electro character. Wait, how many came from Sumeru? Just Dori and Sino, right?
Yep,
That's it. Could be one more.
maybe.
Maybe. Coming at the last minute. Alright, and what about your week in Genshin, Josh? You've been streaming a lot lately?
So this week, by the way, Kahi, I don't know if you saw, but I interviewed another content creator, and his name was Mythic Mage Hat, and he's a Twitch streamer, and very very fun conversation. We talked about a lot of lore things, especially we talked about his crazy theories about like how Inazuma doesn't actually exist and Yai Miko is actually controlling everything, and that Makoto didn't exist. He says he's a Makoto denier. Like, it was really really interesting conversation because there's a lot of really suspicious things that happen in Inazuma that isn't really explained, but we kind of just go along with whatever Yai Miko says. And so he has a lot of theories that connect to like, well, if this is the case, then why did this happen, or like why does this even happen, or what does this mean? And we talked about it. So if you're interested in seeing that, the VOD will be up on YouTube, but it is on Twitch on the Coffee and Culture podcast official channel. And the link to that is in the Discord. So if you haven't joined already, join us. Follow Mythic Mage Hat on Twitter if you haven't already. Follow Mythic Mage Hat on Twitch if you haven't already. Really, really great guy, and he streams, and they just kind of talk about lore on the channel. It's pretty great. So yeah, that was one thing I did this week.
I have a feeling that sounds plausible because she had the Gnosis the longest.
Yeah, something like that. There was something about that too. Like,
Mhm.
why would she have the Gnosis
Yeah.
for so long, and like all this stuff. So
Yeah, so it's plausible. I can kind of see it.
So, yeah, I've been streaming a lot. I streamed that entire quest that you were talking about, the Party World quest, and I didn't realize it would take like almost 6 hours. Also, just like the Jet quest, the second half Jet quest.
And that's if you just focus on the quest. I got distracted so many times.
I got distracted a little bit, but I really ignored a lot of things. Like I have to go back to some of those areas because I ignored stuff because I wanted to finish the quest. So, yeah, I mean, but it was fun. The new area is cool. It's like not too big, but it's vertical. It's very vertical. So, and because you can fly around Sarush, it's like this whole thing. But
Yeah, there's a lot of dips. A
yeah,
lot of like, pretty deep caves.
yeah. So It's a very interesting place. The music is very nice. It was of course, that world quest is another quest worthy of voice acting that just doesn't have it. Like, it's so important and like emotional, but like there's just no voice acting. So it's like, man, I wish I could hear, people doing it. So we'll see what happens. I wonder if that quest will continue in any way, but it seems like it ends pretty cleanly. So, and you can, when you finish it, we can talk about it on here. But yeah, it was fun. It was definitely fun. So that's what I did. Other than that, I just, what did I do? Yeah, I mean, other than that, I actually leveled up Yunjin to level 90 because I got C6 Yunjin. Very excited about that. Tried her out in some team comps.
Ooh, congrats.
She's very, very, very good. I love it. And yeah, so I'm just kind of waiting for the Parade of Providence at this point, the event. Like, so yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens next. Oh, I have been farming a little bit for Kaveh and Baiju stuff too. I'm just grabbing everything I can get in the new place. Fighting the Dendro Hypostasis just in case I need those. Trying to fight the Inquisitor whenever I need those. Making sure that I fight the new boss from the Nahida Story Quest, like just to get the materials like every week, because we'll most likely need those to level their skills past level 6. So yeah, I'm excited for them, and that's about it. So okay, so let's move on to Genshin news. Okay, so Genshin news. Not much news lately. I don't know if it's because Honkai's coming out soon, or because this was like a mid-patch quest, or because the new Parade of Providence event is coming in 2 weeks, and that's kind of where a lot of the story is going. But yeah, we have Yelan's birthday on April 19th. Yeah, like Yelan, amazing character. Really, really great. Really cool design, but also really, really good gameplay, and really fun to use on the overworld map because you can just run around. We also have the Chords of the Forest web event for the second Sumeru OST. So go check that out. You can get free Primo Gems for listening to the album. I don't know if it's over yet, but I know that it was posted. Actually, it might be over by the time you listen to this, but go double check. If you haven't, go listen to the soundtrack. And we have the Fulminating Sandstorm event, which I have not started yet, but it is in game now. So go check that out as soon as possible. And then we will talk about that probably next week, because it is an event. Okay, and that's pretty much it. Genshin news, like I said, not too much recently, which is pretty interesting. But we know that we will get more and more of this as time goes on. And yeah, can't wait for more stuff. I can't wait for Fontaine news. Come on. So we'll see.
We're almost there. After the next 2 characters. I don't know, maybe it'll be a transition story. It's gonna lean in, and then a Harbinger shows up, and then we follow the Harbinger right into Fontaine. I don't know.
Yeah, and like actually right now, right now is the most that I've saved up Primo Gems in a long time, because I don't need Nahida or Nilou, which are the current banners, and I really want Kaveh and Baiju. So I'm really glad that I don't have to roll on this. And then if Kirara is the only character coming next time, if she's a 4-star, then I definitely won't roll for her, because I don't want to roll 4 stars. I don't want to roll 4 stars. And if it's 2 5-stars, I have all the 5 stars already at this point, so I can just save again, and I can start saving for like if there's any new characters released toward the end of Sumeru, or if I can just start saving for Fontaine basically at this point, which I'm really excited for. So let's let's go. Let's save. And
yeah, a lot of people are just like Fontaine waiting in lobby.
No, it's great. But if you don't have Nilou already, I do recommend getting Nilou. Or actually Nahida too. They're both really good. So if you don't have them, I recommend them. But if you're waiting for Baiju Kaveh, just gotta wait a little bit longer, and you can hopefully bring him home. So bring home the Dendro Daddy. So
I mean, if I had to pick any one character, if you had to only get one before this whole thing is done and we move on to Fontaine, I've gotta say Nahida, just because she helps out with every elemental reaction, and she's the Archon.
Yeah, Nahida's kind of amazing. There's always reason to get the Archons, right? But yeah, also just like the little lower thing where like you can scan people's minds in Sumeru. It's pretty great.
Yeah, that's still good.
So yeah, so that's pretty much it for news. So let's dive into our first topic of the day, which is dragons. So Kahi, let us know about Nahida and her story quest.
All right. So yes, the story. Okay. Um, how did you say it before? Sapientia.
Oh yes, it is.
Sapientia.
It is Sapientia Oromastis.
I wanna say it might be pronounced sapientia, like the word like dementia.
I mean, I don't
Or
know. I don't know what
Sapientia.
the. I think it's Latin.
Or the
Right?
root languages. Could be.
I
Yeah.
don't know if they.
Sapientia.
I don't know how it works, to be honest.
Automazdis. I'm just trying to make it sound exotic. But anyway, the title of this episode was called Darshans and Dragons. So we're going to actually be starting off with the dragons and then discussing the Darshans. So, the dragons. The reason why dragons is because this is actually the only time mention of dragons is, pretty prevalent in the story ever since, I think, Inazuma.
I mean, Azdaha was a thing.
Azdaha, yep. Or like the last mention of dragons in the story was, I think, around Inazuma, like once or twice, but that was more of like serpents, and that was more
like
of
Orobashi is a little different,
yeah,
and Vishaps and stuff.
slightly different, bishops. But yeah, this one, not only are dragons, mentioned, we also get mention of a dragon king. So, as a little story overview of what happened throughout Nahida's story quest, so you meet up back with Nahida, say hey, how's it going? She finds this fire seed, which is basically a coalesced elemental energy that she found in the sanctuary of Surastana. We suspect it was left by the old Ruka Devata, and so yeah, she's trying to figure out, what's this for? Maybe it's linked to these old memories that I'm trying to dig up, or something important that I'm supposed to do that I still have yet to remember. So memories are, of course, things to remember. Get it? We're always trying to see the fullest effects of the forbidden knowledge that's invaded the old, the old Sumeru, or the old desert sands. So we also, as we were kind of discovering, hey, what's this little fire seed? Suddenly we caught wind of a fungus that could talk, and this fungi was like a little bit more of an evolved elemental creature that has pretty interesting implications of its origins, but we follow it, and then we come to find out that there's more like it, and then we're trying to help it find its origin. And the origin, at this point in the story, we don't know, or it doesn't know because it forgot. And so you follow it around, you try to find some more of these fungi creatures, and then we find this little group. Nahida learns how to transform into one of those through its power and channeling. Apparently it takes a lot of energy to do that, so anytime we change or shift forms, it apparently takes the power of an archon and some help in order to do that. So we find some more fungus, we find some more hints about where the origin or the home of these fungi could be. It takes us back to the chasm, which is an interesting turn of events. We go all the way back to the chasm again to find a geofungi, and the geofungi actually says some pretty interesting things here. So I took some screenshots of some dialogue that I thought would be pretty interesting to keep in mind. All
right,
there was one.
Hit us.
Okay.
With the dialogue.
Mm-hmm.
Not with your fists.
There's so many screenshots I took. Oh, so the geofungi said something when we first found it, and there's a few things I want to bring up. It said, wait, did you get smaller again? So Ruka Devata was not always, the tall, perfected form of Nahida. Ruka Devata, even back then, somehow had a way to shrink. I don't know, it's because she uses up a lot of her power and then she shrinks and then she gains it back and she grows up again.
Well, I think remember because like with King Destret, she like used up her power, right, and then she became smaller.
Right.
Yeah.
Right, but that's I thought that's how she ended up and just, you know, stayed that way. But for the Jill, she either was when her power depleted, that's how she stayed and ended up. But the reason why is because the Jill mushroom, at least from its perspective, said, "Did you get smaller again?" So he only knew her, or Nahida, or Rukkhadevata in this case, as you know, her truest form, and then shrunk, but knows that it is possible to shrink again. So to me that implies that Nahida could also, when she, you know, gains most of her power back, because she, you know, she's like the main archon, the main, you know, god again or something, her form could actually change back to somewhat normal, but that's just speculation. But it's just implied by the Geo mushroom thinking, hey, wait, you're small again, interesting. And speaking of changing forms, the fungi, once you know, heal them or cleanse them, apparently, like when they, you know, dissipate or wither away, they actually go back into somewhat of a cycle where their energies get just reused and channeled and dispersed throughout the land. Which was a pretty interesting, I guess, detail, because back in Inazuma, I was remembering we had a quest with Yaimiko, where she was also kind of like an exorcist of sorts, where she was guiding souls back to the cycle, so to speak. So either humans themselves have this same ability when they die, or we all have somehow connections to elemental energies, even though we don't all have visions or are able to control visions. So this, even from the beginning of Sumeru, we heard the line that Nahida said, "This world runs in a loop, and there's cycles of all kinds." So it might be the same kind of, you know, energy recycling cycle, or maybe slightly different, but there seems to be more similarities than differences. So basically we find all these mushrooms, all these fungi, and it leads us to the desert. And in the desert, we meet up with a very old and ancient dragon named Apep. Apep apparently right now seems to be the oldest being we've ever run into, and I believe Apep is even older than Zhongli. Because Apep apparently has knowledge of what happened, like even before the land was terraformed in a way, and knows about the apocalypse that happened.
Right. So Apep is Apep is like the Dendro dragon that ruled over Sumeru before the Heavenly Principles. So before Celestia and stuff came, like, because there were the 7 sovereign dragons that ruled the land of Teyvat before the outsiders came and turned it into what it is. And so, you know, Apep, that's who Apep is. Like, Apep has been around since like the beginning, basically, as far as we know. Before people, before Heavenly Principles, before Teyvat, before Celestia, before Teyvat was like what it is now.
Yep. And one of the first things Apep says to us when we meet Apep, Apep says, "I do not need saving, especially not by you, Buer." So she directly addresses Nahida, or the lesser Rukkhadevata, as, you know, their godly name,
right?
Or their
demon name.
I don't want to say demon name, but like their original name.
Yeah.
Because, you know, these specific kinds of names, their alternate names or alter egos or whatever you want to call it, are based off of real names. You know, in IRL. There's Zhongli's was Rex Lapis.
No, Morax.
Morax is his, you know, godly name.
Oh, right.
Same thing for Barbados, which is Venti, and then Baal, which is, you know, Raiden Shogun, or everyone has a lot of names. There's a lot of names in here.
Yeah.
But Apep says, "You are no different from Amun. Both of you have only existed for a fraction of what you know as time, yet you call yourselves lords of this land by leaning on the heavens' glow." So, of course, they know All their power is bestowed upon by the heavenly principles or up in Celestia. So there's like kind of there's a link. There's obviously like power that's coming from another source, not only in this world, maybe higher up. Pep also says something about the Dragon King. So Pep says, it's a long story. We all once believed in the distant past that only forbidden knowledge could give us enough power to defeat the heavenly principles. So obviously they really don't like them for reasons. I mean, it could probably just be because, hey, you treaded upon our land. We were here first. It could be some more. We might be learning about that later on. But there's also the mention of the Dragon King. So Pep says, the Dragon King acquired the power of darkness from outside of this world and led us in a fight against the order established by the outsiders. There's a lot in this sentence because Apep is aware of outside of this world, things that came out from outside of this world. Maybe Apep knows about some descenders. And led us in the fight against the order established by the outsiders. I'm thinking this is the Abyss Order. I could be wrong, but if there's any order that outsiders established, I can only think of one, the Abyss Order. Is there any other orders that you know of?
Well, in Apep's viewpoint, everything Celestia is the outside order. Like everything.
Yeah, everyone's kind of an outsider.
Yeah, everybody is an outsider. So like, I think that's kind of what they're referring to.
As as far as like battles and outsiders versus the locals. Apep was saying, in war, the victor would inherit the right to shape the world, while the losers must turn to ash. So this is really like fighting over, the ability to preside over the entire world, to become gods of this world. There's the heavenly principles which came from outside the world and started to kind of, I guess, sounds like they just try to straight up take over from the dragons. So I'm thinking the dragons were the original, presiders or the original caretakers. Only dragons that I know of off the top of my head is Dvalin, and Apep, and I just forgot his name. You said his name already.
Azdaha?
The Geodragon. Azdaha, sorry. I don't know why I'm drawing a blank. There's just a lot of names going on. Do you know of any other dragons? Any other dragon beings? Or... Just off the top of your head, but like that's the only ones that I can think of that are obviously dragons.
Right. No.
Not really, no. So if there were like original 7, we have, a dragon of wind, a dragon of geo, and a dragon of dendro. Could be some lightning dragons, could be some fire dragons. I would love to see a fire dragon. That's gonna be great.
Right. Oh, what about Durin?
Durin. Wait, who is Durin?
Durin was like this doesn't count for like that per se, but like when you're talking just about dragons in general, Durin was like the shadow dragon that was made by the same alchemist that made Albedo, the one that's like whose heart is in the mountain.
Oh, from dragons? From a dragon
spine, yeah. That's
the shadowy dragon.
Yeah. So Ryan Daughter created Durin and was like an experiment, and
it's a created dragon. I don't think it counts as like one of the originals, but it is a dragon.
Yeah,
I mean,
you said dragons. That's just what I was just trying to think. But yeah, okay. I think
that's a good catch though. But I didn't. Ooh, that's a pretty good reminder. It might pop up later on. So yeah, the most of the really interesting lore bits and story bits come out when you finally meet Apep, because Apep just starts going all into like history, what happened before she was corrupted, what happened afterwards. I think the most interesting thing to me about when we met Apep said something about the original king of the desert, so Alamar, Apep says, when Alamar's proud kingdom collapsed, I swallowed him whole as I agreed and absorbed his elemental power. So the agreement that Apep and Alamar made was, let's see, some of the dragons have grown close to your kind and have forgotten all about our hatred from when the world was taken from us. She agreed with Alamar to do this, to absorb all the knowledge that he acquired, but she didn't know that it was forbidden knowledge, so that's when she became corrupted. So Apep says, as I attempted to collect more forbidden knowledge from the corners of the world as it was on the verge of collapse, I was stopped by the giant spike that fell from the sky. Sand dunes arose where there was only forest, and it was as if even Sumeru itself was trying to tell me that the era of the dragons was over. So, the giant spikes that fell from the sky is kind of when heavenly principles are like completely taken over, and yes, Age of Dragons is over.
Mhm.
That was a signal. That was a start and an end. So that's a very significant occurrence when a spike happens. Alamar's ambitions continued to grow, and he planned to establish a powerful kingdom in my domain, so in Apep's domain. Although I didn't think much of him, I allowed his actions under one condition. After his death, all the knowledge he came to accumulate would belong to me. So, in exchange for, yeah, I'll let you take over some of my area, you give me all the knowledge so that I can help, fight against the heavenly principles, later on. But, that's when she got corrupted. When she got corrupted, it was when the forbidden knowledge was purged, and I believe this was when we had the Irmin's Soul event where Nahida found out that she could rid the forbidden knowledge from history by I guess destroying her old self, and thus Rukkhadevata rewriting history. Created a void. This is not like an additional thing, but like a void, like literally the place inside of Apep that housed all the actual knowledge, the forbidden knowledge, because it's immediately disappeared. Now you have like a big gaping nothing. Now this void, I guess somehow made Apep even worse, because it kind of threw off some balance between its danger energy and trying to like hold back from getting consumed by that void. Nahida was saying that if we don't do anything, that Apep's energy could just immediately disperse and overgrow everything. So that was a pretty pretty interesting I guess warning, because apparently that's enough energy to blot out the sun, overgrow everything in the Sumeru or the planet, because she was saying like humans and like animals would fight over oxygen. So if it's that bad, I'm assuming this kind of energy could envelop the world. So that's pretty bad. So yeah, this is the only boss fight that I know of where we had to like help the boss midway through. And I think we were talking about boss fights last episode. So this is next multi-phase one that brought up a lot of dialogue throughout the fight. But this is where like the major event happens. You fight Apep, you help cleanse it, everything's fine, everything's kind of mellowed out. So Apep, after causing Apep to kind of like mellow out, let's see. Apep says, I admit that I fell for his trap. I was like a final failsafe in his plan. Tiny Boer and the rest of you, continue forward. I shall keep a watchful eye. How far will the life so dear and precious to the heavenly principles be able to go, I wonder? So, Apep says, how far will the life so dear and precious to the heavenly principles be able to go? I can't remember if she's referring to Nahida? Like, because she's talking to us. Like, the life so precious to the heavenly principles. If there's life that's precious to them, I would assume it would be the Archons, because their power is getting channeled through them, presiding over the world. Does that sound right?
One more time?
That makes sense, right? Okay, Apep says, How far will the life so dear and precious to the heavenly principles be able to go, I wonder? Um, I think she's talking about Nahida. Does
Yeah,
it make
yeah,
sense to
yeah.
me?
She's talking about. I
It
think
is,
she's
right?
talking about the archons.
Yeah, the Archon life, like that specific life.
Right.
Okay. Um, yeah. After which, we go back to the city. The seed was destroyed in order to like start the whole boss encounter. But that was pretty much where the Nahida story ends. We now know more about the apocalypse start. We know about the Dragon King's existence. We know about the existence of other big dragons that are obviously elemental related and elemental
Right.
based, ancient beings. We know more about some conflict between everyone down here and versus heavenly principles. Heavenly
Yeah, we
principles,
basically got
are-
like a
yeah,
first what's it called, a first hand source,
mm-hmm.
like a
And
like someone who was
confirmation,
there, who experienced
yeah.
it. Yeah.
Mhm. This is kind of why I wanted to do this one first above anything because I like dragons. Dragons are cool. Dragons are fun. Usually, when dragons are involved, it's pretty important. Like, I'll bring up two examples in World of Warcraft. Apparently, now in their game, dragons created the world, and like one of the most powerful beings is a dragon.
Mm.
Destiny 2, the most powerful beings were dragons. I had no idea they were dragons. Well, I mean, I've been playing for a while, but when I first heard of it, I didn't even realize that dragons were even part of this universe. So, dragons are really cool. They're great.
They are.
They mean a lot. So yeah, throughout this whole thing, Josh, was there a particular thing that stood out to you in the story? Do you have a favorite, or do you have like a lore tidbit that stood out to you? What'd you like?
I mean, the moment where you first see a Pep's like full form in the desert in that cutscene.
Mm-hmm. Oh
It's
man, I
just
thought it was gonna be
so
that big.
cool. I mean, a Pep is that big. Like,
I
like
know, but like when you fight the boss, you
yeah,
have to fight like a smaller version of it. But
yeah,
like,
inside
oh
of
man, to
it.
fight a huge dragon like that would have been cool.
Yeah, it was just like seeing its shadow. Like we just see its shadow, and it's just like, oh my god. I heard someone glitched out of the cutscene. Like I don't know if it was on accident or on purpose or whatever, but I heard that they could see that dragon all the way from Liyue.
Jeez,
It's so gigantic. Oh my god, it's
that's
crazy.
awesome.
It's so cool. Yeah. So anyway, that moment was great. I watched some other streamers like go through that moment where they're just like, "Holy crap!" Like, like, uh, it was really funny to see people's reactions because it is so cool. Like, it was just so memorable. Like, oh, I don't want to fight that. Like, you know. So
Like I
yeah.
first had that same feeling when I saw like the giant constructs
Mm-hmm.
in Sumeru. The ones caked into like the mountain or like the
Right,
one
right,
in the
right.
desert that's still shooting.
The
Uh-huh.
golems. Yeah.
Mm. I have a feeling that it's with a little bit of more development and more technology and advances. I'm pretty sure they could probably do something like a super huge open world boss.
Oh, I'm
I,
sure.
I
I'm
have a
sure.
feeling they could do it. They
Yeah, I'm
could
sure.
totally do it.
It
I
just
mean,
kind of just
what's
depends
the
on how
biggest
much they
boss?
want to do it. The biggest boss is
I think
Shoki no Kami, right?
Scaramouche.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, they can just scale up a little bit more. Maybe if they have to shrink the arena just to do that, or maybe make several arenas to show different phases of it. Because boss fights do that sometimes too. Like you
I
fight
mean, they
like
could
the
easily
hand,
do
you
it
fight the
in
neck.
the ocean. There's so much space there.
Osile and Bashed. What is it?
Yeah.
Yeah, Bashed, right?
Yeah, yeah. Dosile's wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah. So you like the big reveal of the dragon, right?
Yeah, it was
That's your favorite.
so
Mhm.
memorable for me.
What do you think is the most important like lore reveal, like from all of this?
It's a good question. There was a lot.
Yeah, a lot.
Yeah, I think that hmm.
Or like something we should
I think
really
that
remember going forward.
I think it was this these creatures, like these creatures like of a pep or whatever, that can like talk and stuff and that like live forever. What the mushroom was, right?
Mhm.
Like not a Seelie, just like an elemental being that can change form over time, like lives forever but dies if corrupted by the forbidden knowledge, and then
Mhm.
turns into the withering, like that. Like we found out like what the withering was, what the withering is, and why it persisted even after we erased the Elazar and everything, right? Like, well, why is it still happening? Even though we erased all the Elazar, like, why can you still go out into the world and see Withering? Like, shouldn't the Withering just be gone? But that's not the case because we found out about the existence of this new sort of life form, or this new sort of being, and that's actually not new and it's just been around forever, but we just found out about it. So, just like we found about the Pari in the New World quest, which we will get to eventually, but we're learning that there's so many life forms formed from different things in this world, like the Aranara, these things, the Pari. Like, there's just so many. I'm really curious. I don't know if it's because like this is the forest and the life and like full of life and creatures and things, and that's why they felt like it was like appropriate to have all this. But like, think about, like, we have the yokai in Inazuma, we have all these creatures here in Sumeru, we have
And
the
the
adepti, right? And
Mhm.
then in Mondstadt we have like the wolf, like, and the dragon,
Guardian
and
spirits,
the
I
guardian
guess.
spirits, sort
Yeah.
of. So
Mm.
we've got a lot of interesting regional specific beings, and we just, like, in one patch got two of them that we had not heard of up until this point. So yeah, it was pretty interesting.
And I guess to kind of wrap this up, since you're bringing up the fungi as like a pretty important thing to know, that they can, evolve, they can, adapt, and they can like actually change their forms over time based on like their surroundings.
Right.
I thought it was pretty interesting because there was an anime called Eureka 7 where they had aliens that did the same thing. So it's like a coral. They were literally a coral alien where when they finally like landed on Earth, they just started to like absorb and grow and like fuse with everything that it got in contact with, and it started in the ocean. So it started to talk to the fish, started to talk to the bigger animals, but because it's in the ocean, there's just so much mass to like absorb. It pretty much took over the entire planet. But with enough time, it actually figured out that, what, because we're already taking over the entire planet, there's nothing else to talk to. So humans had to like literally leave the planet thousands of years, and then they landed back on the planet, not knowing that was the original Earth. So
I see.
now that they're back, the only way to communicate, or like to really like keep communicating with objects or assimilating, was not to actually assimilate the humans, but to actually create very highly concentrated versions of the alien consciousness into a humanoid form. And then that was how they started to create this race of aliens.
That's what Eureka 7's about?
Yeah.
Wow, I've never seen that show. That's crazy.
It's great. It's very deep, but it doesn't tell you any of this until way later.
I see.
So this a very interesting parallel because this particular one can branch off and say, hey, elemental being in this area, we've discovered. It actually says it. The hydrofungus says, after communicating with various living organisms in Sumeru, we discovered that fungi are the life form most adapted to live in these lands. So they ended up looking like the fungi.
Right.
So every creature out there is rooted. All their ancestors are just pure elemental beings that say, over here it's best if we turn into a wolf. Over here it's best if we turn into like a crane. Over here it's best if we turn into a snake. So everything is still rooted to the same kind of being. There's just different types. So I guess this is, Sumeru is the origin. I want to say like the origin of life. This area.
I mean, it kind of.
That's why it's so important.
Yeah.
Everything else, going forward, I think we'll still have references to Sumeru, or possibly even we could come back to Sumeru and like do some more stuff. Because if the chasm is an area that we kept going back to across several patches, Sumeru could be that literal area too.
Yeah.
And it changes and evolves. So they could add more to chasm. They could add more to Sumeru. I have a feeling we're not done with Sumeru even after we're done with Sumeru.
Yeah, well, we'll see what happens, right?
All right. So yeah, that is the Sapientia Oromatsis.
Wait, did you have a favorite moment or most notable moment?
My most notable moment was basically the mention of the Dragon King and the original dragons.
Because you like dragons.
I like dragons, and we know more are coming. It's like Game of Thrones. The dragons are coming.
Oh,
Just
you're
trust
right.
me.
You're
The
right.
dragons are coming.
You're right. You're right. Yep. That makes sense.
Oh man, it's taken a long time. It's 3 years, and we finally have another kind of dragon. So not only are we able to look forward to another Harbinger appearance, but hey, look, dragon over here. It's alive. Ah, run.
I think there was something said. I don't remember who said it, but I don't know where this source is from. Like, it's from one of the archives in the game, supposedly. But it says a new so in the Seven Sovereigns Genshin wiki, it says a new generation of sovereigns is currently being born. It has been predicted that at least the Hydra one will be quote unquote born in a human form. This is from the from Archive Living Beings, Enemies and Monsters, Mystical Beasts, Bolt Eater, Baptismal Vishap Hashling, and then of the book in the Byakuyakoku Collection, Volume 4, Baptismal Vishap Experimental Records.
Small Bishop Experimental Records. Is that what you said?
Baptismal. Yeah, that's just the name.
But Experimental Records isn't the name.
Yes. Because they were trying to do some experiments on the dragon sovereign of water, or related to Vishaps, but then it says prophecy holds that the dragon sovereign of water will be born in a human form. We must not let this thing happen in Akademiya. Yeah. So.
Wow.
And the dragon of water was the ruler of Vishaps, with sovereignty over water, and it was one of the 7 sovereigns. So.
They're not talking about Basht and Ocean, right? Because they're like Lord of the Sea.
Nope.
That's specifically like sea.
Specifically,
ocean.
This is an Akademiyan prophecy.
Okay, wow.
Yeah. So we might go back to Akademiya eventually, or we might hear about it, but we might not go back there. But anyway, yeah. So we'll see where that goes, I guess.
Yeah. I'm glad I brought that up about Eureka 7 because it sounds like they're literally going to do that. You know what? Let's make a humanoid form, and let's just see how that goes.
Right.
Wow. Cool. All right. So that is our dragon part of the Darshans and Dragons. So let's talk about the Darshans. Josh, what's a Darshan?
So what is a Darshan? Right. So before I get into that question specifically, since the Parade of Providence event is coming up soon, which we did see in the preview, it's going to be featuring Sumeru's Akademiya and all the Darshans. So we thought it'd be nice to have a refresher on the Akademiya, its Darshans, and what they all stand for. So we're going to do a lore learn along. Now, a lore learn along on Genshin Guy's podcast is where we go through the Genshin fan wiki on complicated topics and read them to you so you don't have to. Kind of like a Genshin fan wiki in audiobook form. So hope you enjoy. So, we will get to Darshans. We will get there. For the short answer is the Darshans are different branches of the Akademiya that study that have specialty studies for each thing. They're which I will go over later, but we will get to that. So first, let me just start with the Akademiya in general. Sumeru's Akademiya. Okay. The Sumeru Akademiya is Sumeru's main governing body, as well as the most prestigious institute in all of Teyvat, located in the middle of the tree trunk of Sumeru City. It is particularly renowned for its corpus in arcane arts and historical records. The Akademiya accepts students from all over Teyvat and often sends traveling scholars, known as Driosh, to other nations to gather material for research. It is unknown how long the Akademiya has existed, but it was already a prestigious institute by the time of the Cataclysm 500 years ago. The Akademiya also takes a role as a governing body of Sumeru, handling much of the day-to-day affairs of Sumeru. Virtues and sins. The Akademiya has 3 virtues and 6 sins. The virtues are described in Sumeru's talent level up books, while the sins were deemed by the sages to be the sources of all crimes and banned to protect researchers from a careless pursuit of knowledge. They are the base of the Akademiya's rules, and the sages have been adding new rules and amendments ever since. Researching topics that are related to those sins will expose oneself to punishments, such as expulsion from the Akademiya or imprisonment. So the virtues are as follows. Admonition. Admonition is the branches of the nation of wisdom. It comes from a pure heart and is to be paired with wise thinking, affording humble words, clarity, and good deeds conferring real meaning upon what is said. ingenuity. Ingenuity is the leaf veins of the nation of wisdom. It springs forth from benevolent consideration, sets words of integrity on the right path, and should be completed by harmonious conduct. Praxis. Praxes are the roots of the nation of wisdom. They stem from an unwavering will, validate words of honesty, and bring forth the fruit of wisdom. Now the sins are as follows. 1. Interfering with human evolution. 2. Tampering with life and death. 3. Delving beyond the universe. 4. Investigating the origin of words. 5. Revering gods without acts of devotion. And 6. Attempting the forbidden and fearing none. So, very interesting, right? Like, delving beyond the universe is banned. So, what do you think so far, Kahi? Anything catch your
Beyond the universe seems a little ambiguous, because either are they talking like outer space, or are they talking about like
I think they're talking about their
universe is reality.
Yeah,
Space travel
remember,
is not a thing.
These are banned because no matter how much you research them, or this one might be banned because no matter how much you research it, you won't get any closer to finding out any answers. So it's like a waste of time. Is kind of what it is.
Oh, so that's what they're thinking. So
that, or they know that it's too dangerous that people should not be studying it. Because if you die because of
forbidden knowledge.
That sounds like it could be a thing.
So here's the thing. It's like a lot of actual, modern day academics. Like, you don't want to research something like what do they call it? Gain of function research, because like, why would you make a virus even worse just to see what you could do with it, or make it like an antidote against it? Like, you're literally making the bad thing.
Right.
You don't need to, just so you can make an antidote for it. It sounds like you're just trying to make a problem so you can solve the problem.
Right.
I don't really agree with that. But if you have something like a weapon, like, yes, we already have a lot of weapons. Is it good to research more weapons? No, we have a lot. But if you make like a more efficient one, I guess that's less horrible. I don't know. It's very murky water, but I understand like academics do have to ban certain lines of research because of the harm it can cause. But it doesn't sound like in these Darshans they have these rules because, oh, it's gonna cause like problems, or it's gonna cause like destruction. It's like if they're saying, oh, it's a waste of time, that already sounds like they're hiding something. So if they're hiding something like don't research beyond the universe, it's because, do they already know and they have to keep it a secret? But I don't know. It feels like they're hiding more stuff if that's a rule. Right. Because they had a rule against mechanical beings, but then they're still researching mechanical beings to some degree.
Yeah, from the Karkata quest, right? Okay, so let's read on then. Academics. Nowadays, obtaining a degree from the Akademiya is a notoriously long and stressful process. Gregor, who had been admitted, states that he will be old by the time he graduates and sees his parents again. Hosseini states that it is not uncommon for people to graduate after the age of 30, and that he himself, being less than said age, has his hair turned near gray from his research. Thesis defenses are by far the most difficult part of graduating. Several of the Driosh met in other nations expressed their anxiety over finding material for their theses and have changed their subjects due to extenuating circumstances or rejection from the review panel. Al-Rani downright fears the Akademiya and mentions that Soraya, who is apparently among the top of her class, has piles of rejected manuscripts. It is implied that there is a limit to how long a student can stay at the Akademiya without being able to graduate. Hosseini mentions that if he were to become a dastur, he could stay at the Akademiya longer instead of having to travel around Teva to conduct research. Lisa, who attended the Akademiya in her youth, managed to graduate in 2 years under advanced study, quote-unquote, and is considered to be their best student in 200 years. However, she is not fond of her alma mater after realizing the cost of, quote-unquote, uninhibited erudition, having witnessed raving mad scholars in Sumru's forest and sages sitting in underutilized councils. She ultimately returned to Mondstadt and became a humble librarian, a decision that greatly baffles those who know how talented she is. Research. On top of academics, Sumeru Akademiya conducts research into various subjects. It is typical for traveling scholars to gather material and conduct preliminary research for their supervisors' projects and areas of interest, while researchers are allowed to stay at the Akademiya to conduct their research. After determining that no electrovisions have been given out in the past year, scholars at the Akademiya theorized this phenomenon was related to the Electro Archon's will and in particular the proclamation of the Vision Hunt Decree. This theory turns out to be incorrect when Raiden A reveals to the traveler that she was unaware this phenomenon was occurring, and that Archons are not directly involved in the granting or denial of visions. Due to certain constraints, she could not say what actually caused the halt in electrovisions. While research at the Akademiya tends to lean toward the study of ancient history, the arcane, elemental energy, and fundamental basis of the world, it also bears research of the more scientific and practical variety. Every year, the Akademiya chooses a recipient for the Peer Kavakavas Prize, an award given out to a young scholar under 40 years old, whose research submission is considered quote-unquote groundbreaking and creative, and the submitter has, quote, great potential. Recipients of this prize have all gone on to win great renown in the Akademiya. Research into mechanical life forms is banned in the Akademiya, with students caught doing so running the risk of being expelled. It was initially tolerated and popular amongst those of the Spantamad, but when overzealous researchers began to perform unregulated vivisections and other cruel experiments on animals, it was immediately banned. Okay, so we talked a little bit there about banning mechanical life forms, why they banned it. It wasn't originally banned, but it was amended later. They give out a prize for most groundbreaking and creative and great potential for scholars under 40 years old. Okay. Academic progression. A few different honorifics and titles have been mentioned in relation to a person's progress in their research and studies at Sumeru Akademiya. Driosh, commonly called traveling scholars, are students who have been granted leave from Sumeru Akademiya to wander and learn as part of their research process. Passing one thesis through the review process is enough to graduate from the Akademiya, after which they may be considered formal researchers. There is another subset of students who are confined within the Akademiya and do not leave until they graduate or otherwise cut their education short. So far, no honorific has been ascribed to students of this type. Daster are formal researchers who have passed 2 theses through review process. Hairbad are researchers of high prestige who have immense knowledge and hold leadership positions. The 6 great sages, also commonly referred to as just sages, are the scholars with the highest positions of power in the Akademiya. They are chosen based on a set of criteria to serve as leaders of the 6 great schools, 1 sage per darshan. They are granted administrative power over the Akademiya and also sit on the advisory councils. Some of their duties include assigning jobs and duties to researchers, for example, the role of the Grand Conservator. The Grand Sage is the absolute leader of the Akademiya. This role and title are cumulative with the one of Grand Sage, but little is currently known about what specific additional functions and powers this title implies. The Grand Sage's office is located above the House of Dana. Governance. The Sumeru Akademiya manages much of the day-to-day affairs of Sumeru and is responsible for managing the Akasha system, a system which manages knowledge as a resource that anyone wearing an Akasha terminal can access. The knowledge in the Akasha is compiled from the wisdom of the populace, and the information a person receives is heavily regulated by the Akasha. Yaimiko ponders whether this system was brought up by Lesser Lord Kusanali or by the sages. However, it was revealed that the Akasha was the work of Greater Lord Rukkhadevata. The Akasha is the manifestation of the God of Wisdom's power, but Lesser Lord Kusanali has little to no role in managing it. But as the first Akasha terminal, she has always had her consciousness linked to the Akasha, giving her the ability to occupy the consciousness of anyone wearing an Akasha terminal. However, she has only occupied the bionic puppet Catherine's consciousness out of respect for her people's free will. It is revealed that the Akademiya sages, and by extension the entire government, are corrupt. Following Greater Lord Rukkhadevata's death, the sages were disappointed with the newly born Lesser Lord Kusanali's lack of intelligence, and thus sought to replace their god in an attempt to control knowledge and restore Irminsul. After Totore II returned to Sumeru to offer his assistance in making a new god, 4 of the 6 sages began harvesting divine knowledge from crazed scholars at a secret facility, using the Akasha to create a dreamed samsara to harvest energy and spreading misinformation about the King Deshret's revival. The Amurta sage Nafis and the Vahumana sage opposed the plan, only to be locked up by the other sages in response. The sages modified Scaramouche even further to create their new god. The Academia is also an authoritarian, banning the transmission of information by non-Academia sources and requiring plays to be approved by the Academia to focus on Academia-approved themes, before ultimately prohibiting public art performances altogether. After Scaramouche was defeated by the Traveler in Kusanali, Azar and the other 3 sages that collaborated with him were removed from their posts, with Nafis and the Vahumana sage being released from the imprisonment Azar had inflicted them. 4 new sages are to be selected in the process, personally overseen by Lesser Lord Kusanali. Al-Haytham was offered the position of Grand Sage, but he refused. Nevertheless, Al-Haytham became the acting Grand Sage to manage the Academia's important affairs before the new sages take office. He would ultimately resign and return to being its scribe, leaving the Academia without a clear leader for the time being. Okay, so that was basically kind of explaining the story, that part of the Archon quest, the main Archon quest, and then a little bit of Al-Haytham story.
How many Darshans are there again?
Perfect question, because the next section is the 6 Darshans.
Oh, there you go.
So Sumeru Academia is currently divided into 6 Darshans, each of which has a specialty and designated color for their uniform. The first Darshans were established at the same time as the Academia itself by Greater Lord Rukkhadevata under the name of 6 Great Schools, each representing a type of wisdom, are led by a Great Sage. Although additional Darshans separate from these schools have been created throughout history, only the 6 Great Schools have stood the test of time. Nowadays, the 6 Darshans and the 6 Great Schools are nearly synonymous. So let me quickly go over the 6 Great Schools. So, Amurta. So, Amurta is one of the 6 Darshans, the 6 main schools of Sumeru Academia. Its current sage is Nafis. It includes disciplines such as biology, ecology, and medicine. The recognized color is green. The mascot on the school symbol resembles a huma bird. Okay. Amurta was one of the first ones. It remains the largest Darshan to this day. So, characters of note who are part of Amurta. So, there's a lot of NPC names here. I don't see any playable character names. So, yes, so we don't have any playable Amurta characters. So, next is Ratawahist.
Oh, I think someone, I forget who, but they were saying it's Erdoweist.
What is it?
Erdoweist?
Okay, Erdoweist.
Erdoweist. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't know. I think that's how it's supposed to be because it sounds correct. Erdoweist.
Okay, let's just say Erdoweist then. So don't come after me if the pronunciation is incorrect. I will learn eventually.
It's a game too.
Erdoweist. Okay, so its specialty is illuminationism, or the study of stars, and it includes disciplines such as astronomy and astrology. Its color is blue. Azar was formerly its sage and also formerly the Grand Sage of the Academia. The mascot on its symbol resembles an elephant. Okay, so encompassing objects such as astrology and astronomy, the
Erdoweist.
Okay. The Erdoweist school believes that studying the stars will lead to the truth, and the stars will write people's destinies. In Sumeru, only academics are allowed to study astrology, although other methods of fortune telling are allowed. Okay. So no notable there's no so Layla is part of the Erdoweist.
Erdoweist.
Yes.
That's how I'm gonna say it. That's unless someone else corrects me, that's how I think.
Wait a second. Let me back up a second. So the Amurta, actually Tanari is from Amurta.
Because they're like biology-ish.
Yes, because they're biology, ecology, and medicine, right? So Tanari is there. Yes. Okay, so Tanari's there. Okay, and then Erdoweist is Layla. Okay, and Spantamad. Okay, so Spantamad is specialty is studying ley lines, the elements, and alchemy. Its color is red. The mascot on its symbol is a peacock with 7 feathers representing the 7 elements and a tree beneath representing ley lines and the Airman Soul Tree. Wow, it's a cool symbol. Due to their research in ley lines, Spantamad has the most drioche, or traveling scholars, of the 6 Darshans. Topics related to mechanical life forms were also popular until they were banned by the Academia. And of the characters that we know Sino, Cyrus from Sumeru, and Lisa were all part of the Spantamad, as well as some other notable NPCs like Hosseini and Abatoy. So yeah, cool. And the next is Haravatat. So Haravatat's specialty is studying semiotics and includes disciplines such as linguistics and ancient rune studies. The recognized color is black, and its sage is Kaje. The mascot on their symbol represents a bull. Haravatat is currently the Darshan with the lowest enrollment numbers.
What is their specialty again? Semiotics?
Semiotics includes disciplines such as linguistics and ancient rune studies. So,
Okay.
semiotics.
Is that the one that Farazan's with?
Semiotics is study of signs and symbols.
Mm-hmm.
So semiotics, yeah. So this is the one that I believe is Farazan. Yes, Farazan and Al Haytham are both in this. Spantamad. I'm not Spantamad. Haravatat.
Like languages, symbolism.
Yes. So
deciphering,
reading, right?
Al Haytham.
Exactly. So it has the lowest enrollment numbers, right? Which if you played Farazan's Hangout, you might know. And then, so amongst the 6 Darshans, Haravatat's focus on semiotics involves it in the study of ancient languages. Due to this overlap in studies with Vahumana, which focuses on history, its members occasionally argue on the best way to approach the study of history. Based on Khaldun and Yavanani's debates, those from Vahumana view Haravatat's approach as tunnel visioning, while Haravatat believes that Vahumana's approach of trying to find universal rules that determine all events in history, quote, puts the cart before the horse. Members of Artaoist Darshans, such as Hawa, sometimes dabble into the study of ancient runes, though Hawa comes from a lineage of scholars and may have gained some knowledge from outside her Darshan. One of the languages studied in Haravatat is the ancient King Deshret script. According to Al Haytham, a member of Haravatat, every student is required to study at least 20 languages before graduation. However, he does not specify whether this is a requirement for all students in the Akademiya or only of those in his Darshan. Furthermore, it might have been a sarcastic remark on his part. That's funny. Yeah, I was wondering about that, if that was like real or not. But Al Haytham doesn't joke, so. And it is a study of languages is their whole thing. So I could imagine having to learn 20 languages before you graduate. That sounds intense. Vahumana. So Vahumana is a specialty is etiology, or the study of cause and reason for something. It encompasses history and social sciences. Its school color is yellow, and the mascot on its symbol represents a horse. Members of Vahumana undertake expeditions to ruins. Scroll of streaming song was discovered in some desert ruins during one such expedition and translated by Vahumana scholars, although Tafazoli, a Haravatat Herbad, criticized parts of their translation. A popular topic among Vahumana students is time-sensitive commodities, or TSC. Their research and advice on this topic has helped fruit and vegetable sellers at the Grand Bazaar prevent waste and save mora. They have worked alongside Amrita scholars to design products related to food preservation and overfishing. Wow, interesting. Right, so this is I believe this is the Darshan that doesn't have any playable characters that we know. Vahumana. This is the one that was like blank in the picture. So, yes, so there's no playable characters here, but like, just a bunch of NPCs. So, cool.
What was their major study again?
History and social sciences.
History, social sciences. Okay. What color are they?
They're yellow.
Yellow.
And their symbol's a horse.
I mean, just because yellow. I mean, if we have to partake in the event coming up.
Oh yeah.
That might be us. That might be Traveler.
True. That's true.
Because if they don't have enough people to like represent, then we could just immediately assume that one. Because if they make us just choose another one, because all of them are going to have an event, or they're going to have like, an activity.
Right.
But if they needed a representative, that I have a feeling it's going to be us.
Well, let's find out. All right, let me do the last one here, which is Kasharawar. So this is the specialty is technology, and they're primarily in charge of architecture and puzzle solving. Its school color is white. The mascot on its symbol represents a lion. And many of the buildings and structures found in Sumeru City were created or improved upon by Kasharawar scholars. In particular, their design for a simple single-story building has become somewhat of a template for many of the city's buildings, especially due to the low cost and adaptability. Though the effects of their technological advances are widespread and have led to more affordable products, most people are unable to appreciate or even notice the complex theory that goes into it. Ksharawar researchers are also instrumental to Sumeru's textile industry, particularly due to their loom designs. Over the past 100 years, they have worked towards making textile machines more productive while still allowing the fabric to retain its beauty. Pir Kavikavas was one of the greatest scholars in Ksharowar's history. However, an accident occurred while he investigated Devantaka Mountain in Devantaka Mountain's ruin golem, and his research was lost. Ever since then, the school has gone downhill. Likely due to the accident, Ksharawar advocated for strict control of machines and technology. There were no major academic breakthroughs, and the school remains underfunded. It is only kept afloat by long-term funding from Dori, and she works with several people from Ksharawar, finding them more reasonable than others at the Akademiya. In particular, Kave's creation of the Palace of Arkazarsare was only possible through her Mora. So Kave is the only character that we know from Ksharawar. There's only 10 characters that we know who are or were a part of Ksharawar. And hopefully we'll learn more about that in the event and with Kave. So, yeah, so those are the 6 Darshans. And so they are Amurta.
Alright.
Erdeweiss. Spantamad.
When you read it, it wants you to say it a different way, but then when you hear it, it's like, okay, let me just say that.
Because I just have to think, like, literally say the R at the beginning. Like,
I know, because they're looking at the literal words, like the letters.
Spantamad, Haravatad, Havahumana, and Ksharawar. So hopefully we'll learn more about those in the upcoming event. And and then there's also like the Mahamada, which are alumni of Sumeru. So like Scribe Al-Haytham, for example, is technically part of that. There's also the House of Dana, which is just the name of the library, where above is where the Grand Sage is, which is where Al-Haytham is usually. There's Burmastan, which is medical, like it's basically like a hospital on campus, more or less. Paris Dai is like a Murda-run botany research center, which is usually where you find Tanari. It's like not connected to main Sumeru City. It's like out off to the side a little bit. And there's the Matra, who are led by Sino, and they're the administrative officials that hand out disciplinary actions to researchers who have committed serious academic offenses. They also inspect for illegal sources of information like canned knowledge and presumably smuggled books. So, this Akademiya, their Akademiya is so complicated, like I said, but I just wanted to kind of go over a big overview of like what the Akademiya is and the 6 Darshans, because we're probably going to know about it more in this upcoming event, or we're going to reference it in some way or another. So, any thoughts?
All of these guys are going to be fighting each other pretty much, right? In the upcoming event.
I mean, in the event, it sounds like there is like a sort of sports-esque event where they do compete against each other, kind of like sports teams, but typically they work together, right? Like typically they debate amongst each other to push each other to higher researching lengths, and also to hold each other accountable, but then also to like help each other accomplish each other's goals, because sometimes they work together for like a common goal, for example. So
yeah, because I'm just remembering the trailer like from like the release.
Kave's coming up the rear, like all this stuff.
Kave coming up the rear, and then Wanderer shows up out of nowhere, and then he's fighting
Wanderer. So where Wanderer comes in,
and then everyone else is along the same path. I mean, there's a lot of fights, a lot of battles gonna be coming up, and that that kind of leads us into our community question. We're asking people about their favorite fight or battle.
Yes, perfect segue.
Josh, what is yours?
My favorite is, and I know a lot of people probably have this same one in mind, but man, did it leave an impression. The Kazuha defending traveler from Raiden Shogun. After Raiden Shogun, wipes Senora off the face of the planet, you kind of walk away, and like you're all dizzy, and as you're walking out of the palace, she basically comes behind you and goes to attack you, and Kazuha and Goro and the army from Watatsumi are there, and Kazuha sees that happening, and his friend's inert vision that is on him activates, the electro vision activates, and he kind of uses his electro power, and Animo at the same time because both of them are glowing, and he just like zooms forward and deflects the Musono Hitotachi, which is like supposedly impossible to some degree, or like very, very, very hard to do. And so he does it, and he saves the traveler, and then the traveler turns around and like does this like huge like lightning sword slash, and then but instead of taking the hit, Raiden Shogun just brings him into the plane of euthymia, and
Euthymia.
the plane of euthymia, and that's where you talk to A for the second time. It was a very, very cool cutscene, so very hard to forget, I think. What about you?
Yeah, since this was our last episode, like, I mean, we talked about this previously. I talked about the Raiden Shogun fight being my favorite in-game fight, but as far as like battle scene, I think it might be it's technically like two fights, but it's the Liyue fight when we first fight Osayo, and then we fight Obeist the next time. Because there was a lot of meaning to the fight itself, for what it meant for humanity. Because the first fight, we actually had to have the help of the Adepti, because they're still living in the age of gods and humans. And so we had to like band together and defeat, the incoming Lord of the Vortex. But the next fight was all humans. Like the Adepti didn't step in at all. But it was staged in a way where it looked like the battle was gonna do the exact same thing as previously, but the Adepti didn't even move in. All the humans, they made like a little bit of a trap. They had like a lot more ballistas. They had a lot more technology. They had Beto fighting in the front line in the ships.
They had Shunha.
Oh yeah, they finally had Shenhe again.
Yeah.
And she froze the tsunami.
Yeah, that's crazy.
My goodness. But it had really impactful meaning to the story and like progression of like humanity as the human race, because they're no longer relying upon like godly powers and adepti, and then they're kind of capable to do things themselves. And Enkanomiya was kind of like that too. Like humans got so advanced that something had to shut them down, or some like heavenly principle force like actually had to like push them back in a way that had to halt their progress. So humans are constantly on this trajectory to become rivals to gods, which is kind of why I kind of feel for the Harbingers. Like they want to seize authority from the gods. I mean, like, yeah, we kind of can do that, and we've been like suppressed before, and of course the gods or the heavenly principles they fear us for some reason. So yeah, I can kind of get with their mentality or their justifications. But yeah, that was my favorite like battle scene or fight scene because of like its meaning, its impact.
Right.
But what about our Discord? What's the Discord people saying?
So let me go through the Discord. So Paimonyaka said, a Peps fight. I find it fun and I absolutely love the music. Sarah Q says, Kazuha blocking Raiden's attack was easily the most epic moment. It was also the first time we ever saw two visions at play. Yep, same. Strawboober also onto that comment, 100% agree. First goosebump moment I had in Genshin. And what else? Let's see. Fox with Wings says, I have to say Osail. The whole thing was so epic and emotional. Everyone getting together and supporting each other to face danger really gets me. Yep, that's like the one you're talking about. Retro Sky says, I have to say two. The one where you and Nahida defeat Skara. I love how emotional it gets and how we see a bit of his broken side. And the one where Kazuha blocks the Musono Hitotachi. I love my dear Animo boys. And let's see. Healing Halo says, out of cutscenes, I love the Jade Chamber Rises fight. It really shows how determined Ningguang is and how strong she is. Why the heck is she not a 5-star? Parentheses. Shunha stopping the tsunami is way too cool and show the amount of power a vision bearer can have under the right training. Yeah, that's cool. Oh yeah. Oberon. It's not like a fight cutscene, I guess, but it kind of is. Oberon says, Albedo letting us fight slimes, and then Paimon complaining that it's too easy, and then him saying he can bring in 6 Oceanids if it's so easy. That's so good. I kind of like I vaguely remember something like that. Like, oh my god, it's so funny. Valdemir says, "Gotta love me unusual hilichurls and their cabbages." Oh, okay, that can be a favorite fight, sure. um, Insignia says, "Biased answer: Alhaitham versus Eremite who used the divine knowledge capsule." Less biased answer: Toma yeeting a spear at his god to save us. Nice.
Oh, the saving. Yeah,
Yeah.
I remember that scene. Huh, interesting.
Kemleon says, "It's already been said a million times, but Kazuha using his friend's vision to stand up against Raiden. Kazuha best character, parentheses, totally biased Kazuha main." Javalope says, "My favorite fight is one we never see. When the traveler first comes to Aru village, you wait outside a sandstorm in Candace's home, and you are told that monsters appear at the sandstorm. Waiting indoors is the way to stay safe, and Candace walks out to fight who knows what. Candace is low-key terrifying, and just what monsters lurk in the sandstorm that she tells the traveler and Sino to stay inside for their safety while she deals with things." That's so funny. Okay, so this is a Peachy answer. Peachy Oranges says, "The time that the Jiggly tumor fight happens, which I'm assuming is APEP, and when you fight to ocean currents in 3.2 Lantern Right and Yao Yao saves you. Drowning guy POV." Okay, interesting. Kenguin 35. For me, it would have to be the second fight with Raiden during the Inazuma Archon quest. The Inazuma theme beginning to play as the plane of Euthymia begins to light up with the ambitions of those who have met along the way. Really adds an unprecedented sense of duty and epicness among other mixed emotions for the fight. Slady Noir says, "Battle against Osile, 100%, for sure. Both the lead up to that moment with the building of the Jade Chamber, etc., and Ningguang's decision, and everyone lending the Traveler their strength and fighting together is awing, to be honest." And Shao was very cool, too. And Solito, last one, Solito says, "Don't have a favorite yet, but least favorite is the miasmic tumor." Okay. Okay, so that's pretty much it for Discord. What about over at Spotify, Kahi?
Alright, got a couple of answers just because this was kind of a short gap between our episode recordings. We have James who says, "La Senora had great music and that final scene of her demise is perfect. Hashtag Klee." this guy. Every opportunity. I love it. Yeah, La Senora was a pretty good fight. Little, kind of small scale, but it had, two phases, which makes sense for her character. Kamisato says, "The scene where Traveler and Nahida take down Scaramouche." Yes.
Yeah, it's so
yes,
good.
I love that scene. Very good animation. It was epic how Traveler destroyed the core of the mech. And how like Nahida was like, "Oh, you've tried to defeat me like 128 something times. I know how you're gonna do it now." Alien Cat says, "I like the battle scene of the Raiden Shogun, but I did not like the actual fight itself." Yeah, I can see that.
Yeah, I get that.
But
I understand.
There's technically there are three versions of Raiden Shogun. So, and
Yep.
if you're talking about the one that I'm thinking you're talking about in the story, then yeah, I can see that. Amel Strange says, "It was a tie-in between Osayo or Beisht versus Liyue." Yep, see? A lot of people remember that fight. Both are very large-scale epic battles, and I love how everyone fought together. Teamwork makes the dream work. Well, thank you, Bennett.
Haha, nice.
Yeah. So, I do like large-scale like battles in a story, especially it's kind of like you played Halo. You remember playing Halo?
Yeah, of course.
Way back then?
Only up to 4.
Like you're playing through like a huge arena of like get to here. You see like all like these tanks flying in. You see all like you're in like friendly and friendly AI coming in to help you out. I like those. Like you're making progress through like one big battle. I love that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, that's the Spotify answers. And so for next week's question, Josh, I believe I just put it into the document. Would you like to read next week's question?
Sure. What Darshan would you want to join and why? Wow, that's a great question. I'm hyped to hear everyone's answers. This is like one of those never mind, forget it. I was gonna say like this is like a what Harry Potter house are you? But Harry Potter's very divisible. Yeah. I don't really want to talk about it. All right, so
Slytherin.
You would do great things, Slytherin. Okay, so then let's move on to our last segment, the One Last Wish segment. Kahi, are you ready?
I am ready.
Okay.
You want me to go first?
Yes, you go first. We're gonna both wish one time. Okay. What banner are you gonna be wishing on?
I need weapons because I have to forgo Nilu. I'm sorry. I know she's good.
What
she's
pity
really
are you
good
on?
for like team comps. For the weapon banner?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know. Hold on. History. What's the last 5-star weapon I got? So 5. Ooh, I meant like 9 pity.
Oh, okay, great. What was the last 5-star you got?
I got the spear. Beacon
Primordial
of
Jade Wing
the
Spear.
Red Sea. Oh no, that was Dia's weapon.
Oh,
Beacon of
nice,
the Red
nice.
Sea.
Yeah.
Yeah, so oof, I am fresh. Okay. Well, here we go. Let's see if I can actually get something. Maybe a purple would be nice. Good to prep for future character. Wish going up. And it is blue.
Oh.
And so am I.
And so are you. What is it?
Ooh, Thrilling Tales of Dragon Slayers.
Oh.
Oh, how fitting.
Oh, dragons.
Mm-hmm.
All right. I'm also doing the same, rolling on the weapon banner. Ready? I am at 30-something pity. Here we go. Gold. And blue. yeah, I got the slingshot. Woo. Okay, well, there we go.
Congrats, I guess.
That's okay. You can take that back. I don't need your congrats. Okay, forget it. Anyway, so that wraps up the show for today. As always, thanks for listening. And if you have the time, please leave us a comment and a review. We'd really appreciate it. Don't forget to subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you're listening. Join the Discord. The link is in the description below. And follow us on Twitter. Once again, at Genshin Guys Pod. Me at JSide Gaming. My Twitch, twitch.tv/JSide. And Kahi on Twitter at Kahiao, Kahiayao. So, as always,
Ad Astra Abyssos.
Hoshi to Shion o Mezase.
Enjoy.